2-2 tie in the first minute here at Cameron after that reverse layup by Romeo Langford. Zion Williamson with the first bucket of the game for Duke. And a great atmosphere as always here at Cameron. The Blue Devils and the Hoosiers both 5-1 on the season. Of course, Duke's loss out in Maui against Gonzaga. Indiana's only loss was a 1-point defeat at Arkansas. Williamson on the follow.
That ball was below the rim when it was corralled by Duke. And if Zion Williamson is going to get things that easy, it is going to be a long night for Indiana.
Nice cut, and reaching in, though, is Reddish to knock it away. And Duke with numbers at the other end. Reddish wide open for three.
That, and they wanted to communicate and talk better on defense. For the most part, they've done that. And Indiana's turned the ball over. They're in foul trouble. It has been a very difficult first 12 minutes of this first half for the Hoosiers. Yet, they are only down 13. It actually could be worse.
9 turnovers committed by the Hoosiers, just 1 by the Blue Devils.
Indiana turns it over 15 times a game. It's not like they're immune to turnovers, but you can't have them on the road in this environment.
Williamson, and we've got a moving screen called.
Team about that during the last timeout, but also really getting on them about the 50-50 balls and going after everyone, boxing out and rebounding. He said you have to make contact on every single shot. You have to start getting those second chance points.
All right, Allison, thank you. R.J. Barrett with a floater. He's got 7, and the lead grows to 15.
A very controlled drive into the lane, little left-handed push shot there by R.J. Barrett. Allison Williams is exactly right when she was talking about Archie Miller. I mean, so much of this comes down to just grabbing the ball. And even on the last play when Justin Smith drove the baseline, Jack White comes over and he just coughs the ball up. I mean, Jack White came over, cut the baseline out. He didn't pull a weapon on him. And you got to be stronger.
Williamson almost came down with that offensive rebound between a couple of Hoosiers, but back comes Langford. The top 5 recruit coming into this year. Give him an assist on the 3 by Fitzner, the grad transfer from.
Indiana has to feel like, Duke's forced a number of turnovers, but Indiana has to feel like they've given some away. Picking up a dribble. You can't pick up your dribble there. He's being guarded by Marquise Bolden.
Barrett leads to the steal, and he's trying to go the distance. Count the bucket and a foul.
Well, right now, with Trey Jones out of the game, R.J. Barrett can run the point, but any one of Barrett, Reddish, and Zion Williamson can bring the ball up if they grab a defensive rebound.
Boy, one of the few things that has not gone well for Duke here in the first half, Jake. They're 3 for 10 from the foul line.
Yeah, this could be a bigger lead.
Good pass. Fitzner open in the corner. Morgan the assist.
Big time pass.
For that. This is a big 2-minute stretch for Indiana. If they can get a couple of stops and a couple of scores and then go into halftime with this under 10, it's going to be a tall order to get it there after R.J. Barrett scored on that drive.
Barrett now with a 15, Williamson with 15, each averaging over 20, and they've combined for 30 already tonight. Bolden with a block.
And taking it the other way. Boy, when Duke gets a stop and can take it the other way, they can really do some damage.
This is going to be Duke ball with a minute 50. Michigan is playing defense about as well as any program in America right now. How about this? Michigan's holding their opponents to 48 points per game. Carolina's scoring double that, 96 points per game. So as they say, Jay, something's got to give. Jones follows up the miss.
Boy, and Archie Miller's got to be really upset. You got the point guard who's just barely over 6 feet tall, grabbing offensive rebounds and getting stickbacks on you. And Duke right now moving the lead out. Indiana not able to put a dent in it going into halftime. They're getting the lead stretched out on that.
Again, this matchup of Langford and Barrett, 2 of the most talented freshmen in the country. Langford step back jumper, left it short. Somebody might have gotten a finger on that.
Indiana having to go one-on-one and try to break the defense down individually. Yeah, they've got to do a much better job of being stronger and running something. When they get in a half-court situation, they got to run something, grab the ball, and get loose balls. I mean, this was all Duke in the first half.
They can basically hold it about a second and a half difference. It'll be Williamson getting inside, laying it in.
The spins away from contact. The defense lifted up. What a first half for Duke. A dismantling of a good Indiana team.
A 10-0 run to end the half. Williamson with...
And the rebounds, they have to start winning those two categories.
Yeah, there's a lot to be unhappy about if you're Archie Miller. We are ready for the start of the second half of our Sonic blockbuster. Thank you, Allison. Turnovers a problem. Remember, they had that 4-on-1, the pass going backwards between a couple of players out of bounds. So many missed opportunities, and then that 10-0 run for Duke to close the half. Let's take a look and see who is on the floor. Brought to you by Geico, and it's the same starting five of the second half as it was at the beginning of the game for the Hoosiers. Juwan Morgan picking up 2 early fouls didn't help the Indiana cause, and the starting five for Duke in the second half, the same as the group at the beginning of the game, the 4 freshmen and Marquise Bolden.
Indiana turning the ball over to start the second half, and then Duke turning right around and turning it over. Cam Reddish running the baseline. When he stepped out of bounds, he can't be the first guy to touch it again when he comes back in, as long as he wasn't forced out of bounds. You see that call every once in a while. A lot of times you might not get it identified, but it's a little bit of an odd rule, but happens maybe once a game.
Spinning into traffic. Smith can't finish. Shot might have been altered, and here comes Barrett.
Yeah, Bolden altered that shot. He was right there on the spin. The next step for Zion Williamson is to try to keep that thing in bounds, because there's nothing else to argue about.
Now he comes up with a steal, and it's going to be an easy 2 for Jones. Zion Williamson doing it all tonight.
And his lateral movement is so good.
Class right now.
Yeah, and Romeo Langford, obviously the crown jewel of the recruiting class, and he covers so much ground. But he's a team player. It's not all about him, and he's done a really good job all year long.
Barrett with a 3. Williamson slips and still gets an assist. Let's head down to court level. Here's Allison Williams.
Well, guys, as you watch Romeo Langford, there's kind of an ease and a smoothness with which he plays, and at times it can lead people to question his energy and his effort. But Archie Miller will tell you, when you watch him, it may not look at times like he's emotionally charged up or engaged, but when you watch the film, you see how quickly he covers ground, how quickly he closes out. And Romeo recognizes it too. He said, if you try to guard me, you'll know that I'm going fast.
CYBL or all these different grassroots summer tournaments they play in and camps. So it's rare that the better players don't see each other a lot. What a move. That same play it's the same play Duke opened the game with, where sort of a little back screen to get Zion Williamson isolated in the low post.
And again, aggressive out of the perimeter. This time Trey Jones called for
Javin Delorier, because after that little back screen, there's a screen for the screener action Duke can run.
Boy, Williamson has been gambling all night long on defense, trying to come up with the ball. The lob, Barrett to finish.
That is quite a tandem high wire act between Zion Williamson and R.J. Barrett, and they are unselfish. It's not like Zion Williamson has to be the only show in town. He's willing to share the wealth.
We've gotten a chance to watch them a lot in practice. We were with them on the Canada tour, saw them in the hotel. Here's another one. Oh, my. I mean, it is a dunk fest right now. And Archie Miller probably can.
This is like watching Louisville and Houston in 1983. Except one team is having all the Louisville and Houston dunks.
Yeah. That's at least 6 dunks tonight for Zion Williamson.
And there's 12 minutes to go in regulation.
McRoberts knocks down a corner 3. And an offensive foul on Barrett.
A big win by Penn State over Virginia Tech. And Lamar Stevens of Penn State is a really good player. Yet almost another steal for Duke. Still with a big lead, still putting on full court pressure.
Langford short on the 3. R.J. Barrett's gone to the bench with 4 fouls for Duke. A charge before the last timeout, number 4 on him.
Wait, has Indiana gotten an offensive rebound in the second half? Doesn't seem like they have. It's really been one and out, and it's been, for the most part, one challenge shot.
Morgan guarding Williamson. Reddish driving, has it knocked away, and here come the Hoosiers led by Al Durham. And Langford got in really deep, but a foul is called, and it will be on Jack White.
Yeah, he chested him up right under the basket in the restricted area, the charge circle, and reached in. So it wasn't sort of a charge that he was trying to take there. Watch his right arm goes down across the ball, and there was contact with the chest before Zion Williamson. That's one of the, because Zion Williamson is lurking around, that's one of the reasons you really don't want to foul. Because that is a big eraser on your defensive pencil.
Jay, let me ask you about Cam Reddish. I mean, Jones is playing great. Barrett's scoring in a bunches. Williamson's being Williamson. Has Cam Reddish, is he just searching for his role? Is he just not shooting the ball well? What do you see from him right now?
Well, I think he has a pretty good understanding of his role, but these are still, even though these are incredibly talented young players, they're still young players. So they're trying to figure it out. And coming off a loss in Maui where Reddish had some really good moments, but didn't always play his best. And he certainly hasn't played his best in this one on both ends of the floor. I think one of the things for any player, but especially for a young player, is when your offense isn't going the way you want it. And most young players judge their performance by whether their shot goes in or not.
Well, your shot just went in.
It did. But when your offense isn't going well, throw yourself into defense, because 95% of this game, you play 95% of it without the ball. Bolden with a nice block. I think Duke would have rather had somebody up there to try to help out on that screen initially, because nobody called it out. Trey Jones just picked off in transition.
And Reddish turns it over again, and Durham knocks down a three at the other end.
Well, I like him. 13 points against Marquette. I think he had a double-figure game against Arkansas as well. Played pretty well against UC Davis. Al Durham is just a Kenny Williams. And Nasir Little, the freshman, who is projected to be a top 10 pick in this year's draft, worried to come out. There's a lot of talent, but Michigan's so good defensively. There's going to be a really difficult game on the road for North Carolina.
It's going to be a maze out at Chrysler tomorrow night as the Wolverines host the Tar Heels. Al Durham making some good plays tonight.
He is a player. It is kind of hard to fathom how those metrics work out after 6 games.
And we're not privy to the formula. That's one of the issues, but
we're privy to some of the things that they look at, not the entire formula. But it can't be a very good formula that doesn't value after 6 games, 3 top 10 games having been played, things like that. That's sort of hard to fathom, that it could be, that you need 20 games worth of input to get decent results.
Zion Williamson back into the game for Duke.
Good rebound.
And Delorier puts it back. Williamson is on the bench, and it appears he is having some cramping issues in his legs, something that afflicted him towards the end of the tournament out in Maui as well.
Yeah, he had some full body cramps after the game against Gonzaga. They had to essentially carry him off the bus after the game back to the hotel, when he got back to the hotel. And he had, I think we were told, 3 IV bottles, or IV bags, I guess, were used on Zion Williamson after the game. That's how much he was cramping.
We were not told who carried him off the bus.
What 8 people?
Reverse for Reddish. 5, and Barrett, who was fouled out of the game with 22.
Yeah, so that the Duke freshmen have a 3-point lead. Make it a 6-point lead over the entire
Virginia and North Carolina. Only 2 at any given time, obviously. They're going to be really, really interesting this year up atop the ACC. The lead is exactly the same as it was at halftime, a 24-point advantage for Duke. As we go into the final minute of the game, down to 22 after yet another bucket by Durham.
Yeah, Al Durham's had a nice game. In a game where it's been difficult to find bright spots for Indiana, Al Durham has made some really positive plays. And a nice
nice gesture here that Mike Eads is saying that they need to get some.
And You saw it before we could even see the word fuzzy on his shirt. That's a good catch by you. Final half minute. And into the game for Indiana, Jake Forrester, a freshman from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, with a bucket. And Duke doesn't have to take a shot. Shot clock is turned off, and the Blue Devils with a convincing win. Big-time performance from Zion Williamson. 25 points on the night. R.J. Barrett, 22 points and 9 rebounds. And the Blue Devils bouncing back from their loss to Gonzaga in impressive fashion tonight. The final score at Cameron Indoor Stadium, the Blue Devils 90 and the Hoosiers 69. The ACC Big Ten Challenge is now all knotted up at 4 with 6 more games tomorrow night.